We have a twofold mission at this oldest Holocaust memorial site in North America: to teach about the Holocaust and to remember our murdered families who perished in Europe for their faith. Sadly, nearly 1/3 of all Americans and 4 out of 10 millennials do not know which war the Holocaust is associated with.
We must ensure that our children learn about the Holocaust. We must, as Americans, be willing to acknowledge the errors so that we can learn from them. We must teach how easy it is to lose sight of another's humanity.
What I love about being a history teacher is that I can tell stories, but notably telling stories for those folks that we normally don't hear about.
Hashim Davis teaches history at Albemarle High School in Charlottesville. The school is located just a few miles from the epicenter of the Unite the Right rally in 2017, where white supremacists and neo-Nazis marched with weapons and burning torches, shouting, "Jews will not replace us." The march turned violent, many were injured, and activist Heather Heyer was killed. Last November, a civil jury found white supremacists liable for conspiring to organize the racially motivated violence, ordering them to pay more than $26 million in damages.
You saw hatred in action, but you saw resilience in action. For those individuals who lost their lives that day, there's no replacing that, but it's something to be celebrated, because hatred is just not tolerated.
The judgment can be seen as a step forward in a movement meant to stop the rise of antisemitism in our country. However, according to an American Jewish Committee survey, 1 in 4 American Jews say they were a target of antisemitism in the last year. Davis believes his students can call it out when they see it, largely due to the time and effort he spends in the classroom teaching them about the Holocaust.
Exposure, as Elie Wiesel says, when you become a witness, it's as a result of you bearing witness to it. And whether my students will ever touch a synagogue by way of visiting it, or if they will come across anybody who is Jewish, they can never say, as being a student in this class, they didn't know.
Davis uses documentary evidence to illuminate the horrors of the Holocaust for his class, part of a generation that often lacks awareness of these events. A 2020 national survey by the Claims Conference found that 63% of respondents under age 41 in Virginia did not know that Nazis murdered 6 million Jews during the Holocaust. Nazis also killed 5 million political prisoners, people with disabilities, homosexuals, and Roma.
Who would have used anti-Semitism and said it were the Jews? The Jews, the communists, they were the ones that stabbed us in the back, that made us not be as glorified as we once were. All of that happened.
Teaching the Holocaust is mandated by the Commonwealth of Virginia. Students must be tested on the subject as a standard of learning. However, only 19 other states mandate Holocaust education for public school students. Jennifer Goss, a Holocaust education scholar, says that legislative mandates are a positive step forward, but that requirements differ vastly from state to state.
Mandates aren't a new conversation. In Virginia, the only official piece of legislation that discusses Holocaust education is House Bill 2409 that came about in 2009, mandating that the Virginia Department of Education ensure that every school district had access to a manual of effective practices and lessons for Holocaust education. So there's a measure of accountability in the state of Virginia that often lacks in other states that have, quote, mandates, but their mandates are very loose and simply say things like the Holocaust must be taught. Here in Virginia, we do have a specific framework that not only ensures that the topic is taught, but that specific components of the topic are taught.
Who were the people that you're going to study about, that you're going to examine, right? We have placards, identity cards of actual individuals who either survived or who had perished in this event. Who were they before the Nazis stripped them of their identity?
Recent surveys suggest that while some youth in America can't recall specific places and dates related to the Holocaust, They are connected to the stories of struggle and survival. Dr. Roger Loria has spent the last few decades talking with students about his personal experience as a Holocaust survivor, memories that are still difficult to talk about, but that he believes are important to share.
I didn't speak for 50 years, but when here in the US, in Richmond, I saw the burning of the churches and the killing of the Vietnamese and the gay people, that is the first time I start talking, because I have been there. And I want to make sure that we don't repeat this and that we don't let this happen again. Abby Crow is a junior at Freeman High School. Her interest in the Holocaust was kindled when she participated in New York Times Summer Academy last year.
Last summer, I was lucky enough to hear Alice Ginsberg recount her life story, and I wrote the piece that I'm about to read to you. As I've gone on this exploration of the Holocaust, the one aspect that has stood out to me the most is how much love the Holocaust survivors have for the world. When you hear directly from the source, it definitely creates an emotional response that you don't get otherwise, and hearing firsthand really is something that's going to go away eventually. And so in order to keep telling the stories and keep them alive, it's important to hear exactly what happened and make sure it never happens again.
The reality is a lot of teachers in Virginia aren't today teaching students and drilling into students names and dates and numbers. They're teaching the Holocaust through stories, and they're teaching students the broader lessons of this topic.
Goss says a 2020 survey by Echoes and Reflections found that teaching about the Holocaust helps students build empathy for people of many different racial, ethnic, and religious backgrounds.
Students that had been taught about the Holocaust were more likely to be tolerant towards others. They were more likely to accept a diversity of viewpoints. And so I can't tell you that every one of those students could have told us that 6 million people, Jewish people, died during the Holocaust and 5 million others. But what I can tell you definitively is that those students are equipped with skills that are going to help them go out and be productive and engaged citizens in our society. And as a Holocaust educator, I think that's where the real win is.
In 2020, Congress passed the Never Again Education Act, a bill co-sponsored by Virginia U.S. Representative Abigail Spanberger. The bill provides $10 million in funding to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum to ensure better access to Holocaust education resources for schools around the country.
It's incredibly important that all of us remember where lies, conspiracies, and hate can lead a society. And so being active in ensuring that we're remembering that part of our shared history is incredibly important. I think it's a way that we honor the victims. It's a way that we proactively ensure we never witness something nearly as tragic or horrible ever again. But it's incredibly important that we learn from the past and remember those who lived it and those who died.
No more, and let us say,
Anti-Semitism is serious. If it happened before, that means it can happen again.
It's very important to tell the story and to tell the history. I gave a lecture and a young girl got up and asked me, Dr. Loria, how do you keep the hate out of your heart? And I told her, the hate eats you up. We are now in a situation where hate is very prevalent, and certain people use the hate to justify violence. We are talking against that. We are talking about hope, about helping people, about kindness, and not about hate. Hate never solves anything.
Thank you for watching. Continue to follow Virginia news and stories by subscribing to our VPM YouTube channel.